welcome to Global Morning.
Death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure. If you don't say we have some more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a life. The president never gave me any deadline.
A very good morning to you and welcome to Global Morning. And thank God it's Friday. TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. And speaking of Friday, it's Good Friday. Don't forget, we have a lot of activities lined up for you today. My name is Godwin Sunday, and I'm not doing this alone. I'm doing this with my colleague here in the office. Good morning, Joanna.
Good morning, Godwin Sunday. How are you doing today? And to all our viewers out there, how are you all doing today? It's Good Friday, like you mentioned. I am Jumai Manson, and it's great to be here. I'm excited. Easter is around the corner. And of course, there's going to be lots of rice, lots of. You know, when it comes to festivities, I'm big on that. I love festive periods and all of it. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be Salah, it could be Christmas, it could be Easter. I'm just big on festivities because it's a time to share, show love, and ensure that people understand that they're important. It doesn't matter whatever you're going through, you are loved by each and every one of us. And it's great to be here, TGIF, and it's the Friday Tag Team.
Interesting. But let's even put the Good Friday in perspective. It's also known as Black Friday and also Holy Friday, Great and Holy Friday, Friday of the Passion of the Lord. And it's also a solemn Christian holiday commemorating the crucifixion of Jesus and his death at the Calvary Golgotha. It's also observed during Holy Week as part of the Paschal Triduum. Members of many Christian denominations, including the Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Lutheran, Anglican, Methodist, and all Christian faiths, observe Good Friday with fasting and church services. In many Catholic, Lutheran, and other denominations, 3 hours of agony is held for noon until 3 p.m. The hours is the Bible records darkness covering the land until Jesus' death on the cross. A lot of activities are lined up for the Good Friday ceremony celebration today. Now, for members of the Eastern or Western Christian faith, a lot of activities. So we see the Passion of the Christ. Now we see a lot of most Reverend Fathers right now also on retreats.
Yes, they are.
Still waiting on God and looking up to God for certain things. But for me, the Holy Week is 1 week where a lot of spiritual activities are happening. Now, if you observe in the Muslim, towards the end of the Ramadan, there was a 10 days that was observed as a period of Holy Week.
Yes.
Where, according to Muslim faithful, that whatever thing you ask, you get at that point.
Yeah.
Now, this is also, Christians are observing 1 week, so that's just, I think, 7 days.
Yes.
For some 7 days. And within this period, it's believed that whatever you ask from the heavens, it comes to you. There's something about the Lent and also fasting, whether be it Ramadan, be it the Lent, there's something about it. Now, whether you believe or not, if you participate, it draws some form of spiritual strength and you're able to cope. But I know Juma is more of a fasting person. So the way you're more of a fasting person, I think I'm not a foodie, but food likes me. So but we'll try to see how we.
You are a foodie.
No, I'm not a foodie.
It's
Food
both.
likes me.
It's both. But you know what? Like I mentioned, like our Muslim faithfuls were just done with their Ramadan. Of course, the small Salah, Salah Kirimi. That's the smaller Salah just took place.
Salah Kiri.
it's small. It's not. They say Baban Salah and the small Salah. There's big Salah and the small Salah.
Okay.
So now, looking at this seriously, it has to do with religious aspect. That's the Muslims and of course the Christians. And you see, it's a time where you come together and you understand that God is real. And the truth of the matter is that it's a time where it's a connection between you and your Maker. And it's a connection for you to understand how privileged you are, how blessed you are that you can actually, there are people that cannot stay under the roof. So it's a time for you to go back into to be of sober reflection, to actually thank God that you draw close to Him. So it's in time in Nigeria, the Lent and of course Ramadan coming to, they were almost at the same time, but of course our Muslim faithfuls are done with theirs now. And now the Lent period is coming to an end because of today's Good Friday, and before you know it, Monday is Easter proper. So at the same time, it's something that we need to be thankful for. It's time to draw nearer to God and do the right thing. When it comes to whether you are in power, whether you are in your office, whether you are imam or a pastor, whatever office you hold that people look up to, it's a time to just understand that you have to do the right thing, because God is all supreme. He watches and He knows every single thing.
Well, God watches everything and sees everything. It's a good time to celebrate, and it's a good time to also be alive, 2025.
Exactly.
It's a good time. So let's, of course, you go out and just get yourself immersed in the prayer section if you're from the Christian proclivity. And of course, if you are not a Christian, you can also support the motion by also praying alongside with the Christian brothers that are waiting on God even this period. It's a very interesting time to be alive, 2025. Well, still speaking of, thank God it's Friday. Well, the Chinese, there was a video making the rounds on social media where a Chinese man was giving money to Nigerian police officers. It was an embarrassing scene.
Very.
And we felt by now the police would have come, the Nigerian police and public relations officer would have come out to say something about that incident. Of course, it happened in Kaduna. And we're expecting that by now the police would have said, okay, let's sanction them. But although the police came out to say, hey, these officers will be brought to book.
They should.
But then we believe that this is another rhetoric, another very fascinating speech, a very gorgeous metaphors used to calm situations. Because whether we like it or yes, giving a police officer money as a form of appreciation, like the Chinese man have come out to say.
Even the Nigerian representative in China, she actually came out and said, there's another video, she came out and said it's embarrassing to the union and of course to Nigerians, because Nigeria has been portrayed in a particular light. 2 weeks ago, they said Nigeria is one of the most corrupt nation. And it's not easy. We hear a lot of things that Nigerians, fraudsters, all of that. We hear all sorts of names being called upon Nigeria. And at the same time, this sort of issue making rounds. And of course, not just in Nigeria, in the diaspora when it comes to China. And then to see that sort of thing, it means that, okay, whatever people have been saying about Nigeria, it is true. The police, especially the police, all of our sister organizations, when it comes to security agents, they say they are corrupt, they do not have integrity. And now for a Chinese man, what baffles me is the effrontery.
To film that particular.
Not even to film.
To receive the money, to give a police officer with firearm.
With firearm, the effrontery.
And they lined up for you.
Aye.
And as if you want to conduct a parade.
Like really?
And they share the money to each police officer.
I think 5,000 or so, because some fell off and I counted 1, 2, 3. How many?
Juma, how did you do that?
I'm a woman now. They say women do like money, but please.
But it's embarrassing.
No, it is. I was like, what is going on? And he was speaking Chinese that they should bring more. It shows the levity. When a foreigner has just demeaned the police force, right? And that was what just played out.
What he said, when he was speaking, he said it's the common gesture in China where they see people that do their jobs, they get to appreciate them, and this is not a payoff or alleged bribe.
But the truth is, what is making rounds in China is different from what we're hearing now or all over the world. The truth is, Godwin, if you want to pay gesture, or you want to appreciate someone, that's why we have an envelope. You place it in an envelope, and you do not have to announce to the world that I'm performing a kind gesture. The right to respect the uniform, respect the country. You place it in an envelope. No one has to know. No one has to know. When you're done appreciating, thanking them, there's a handshake. That's why there's something called behind closed doors. Nothing happens. How many courtesy visits have many prominent individuals have gone to? Do you know that there's an association called Nigerian Army Officers' Wives Association, Nigerian Navy Officers? They've gone for a courtesy call. And do you know whether have you ever seen people coming out and say, oh, I've given this amount? No.
Or Nigeria, or Naowa, and
that's what I'm telling you.
Line up and be collecting.
Are you kidding me?
Count and give to them.
No, these sort of things, you do such things behind. If I'm going to appreciate, it doesn't matter how big or how small. It's the gesture that counts. It's the intention that matters. No, that is an embarrassment. And the truth is, you see, it's so easy for you to do something, but if Nigerians that want to do the same to the Chinese police or whatever.
I'm waiting to see Nigerians.
They will not take it lightly.
To see Nigerians give money to line Chinese police officers and start giving them
the way
money.
They will.
Now, of course, if you try that in China by now,
are you kidding me?
Now, yourself and the police officers would have been sleeping somewhere.
Okay, let me tell you an incident that happened. A friend of mine that works with Voice of America, he told us a story that happened. So some Nigerian journalists, they actually interviewed a minister here he's a minister in Nigeria. He came over to America and they were interviewed. And at the end of the day, he was happy that, oh my goodness, Nigerians. So he gave them $100. Was it $100? Do you know they were all sacked for collecting that money? They were all sacked. All of them. They were all sacked. Collecting that money alone from the minister that came and said, oh, thank you, oh my goodness, you're doing very well. Oh. They were all sacked. You see the height of it. And now individuals on uniforms with their weapons, and you have the infantry. What happened to, like I said, what happened to the envelope? What happened to closed door? If you feel that, okay, whatever it is, have them in envelopes, have them. As in, that's to show that you respect our country, Nigeria, you respect police force. Anyway, I don't blame them. See, an Indian woman now will just come in with 72 wraps of cocaine in chocolates of all things that she saw. Chocolates, one of my favorite candies. And then she has the effrontery to come. So anything goes with these foreigners. But I think the needful needs to be done for everyone to understand that, hey, we have policies, we have rules, we have regulations. There are some things that you cannot do. If you were getting away with it in the past, this is a different era. You cannot get away with it now. You will not demean us as a nation and as a body and as an individual. It is so demeaning. Please.
For me, what I find very disturbing is the fact that the filming of that particular incident.
Really?
Now, what was the intent? What was the intention behind you?
I've told you what the intent is.
If the intent is to appreciate people, you were filming them and you were going round, and when you finish, you called your partner to come and continue from where you stopped, and it went like that. So the intent is to show that you can come into Nigeria and also give public officers money.
Yes.
And they will collect it.
Yes.
Even as you're filming them.
Yes.
Now, this is not just embarrassing to Nigeria. It's not just, especially to the international community, it is more embarrassing to
the Nigerian police force.
Yes. Because we will say Nigerian police force is one of the best police in the world.
So far now.
So far as it stands, because of what they've been doing and some of the innovation that has been brought to the fore right now. When we look at all of this, we'll now begin to ask salient questions. Could this be the reason why, when an incident happened between a Nigerian and a foreigner, the Nigerian police force will allegedly take sides with the foreigners? Could this be the reason why the Nigerian police force will give out police officers as escorts to various Chinese-owned organizations because they have been tipped to also stand for the Chinese and all the foreigners? Could this be why there has been a sentimental bias between the Nigerian police force and there's a wide distance? If a foreigner calls the Nigerian police when an incident is happening, unlike in other countries, we get to US, for example, you are a citizen of the United States of America, you're calling the American police, and a foreigner that is calling they are on an American police, probably you're staying in one of the But let's just use an assumed or alleged IDP camps. If you're staying in any of those places, you probably the police will first of all respond to the American citizen because American comes first.
Of
to
course.
Them. Now, if you call Nigerian police and you're not well-to-do, sometimes they give you the excuse of we don't have fuel in our car, in our vehicle, and sometimes it takes them hours to show up. When they show up, the police will begin to act plenty of dramas, except one thing leads to another. We've had our fair share of Nigerian police incidents. We've had our fair share.
Godwin, you've gone too far. You've said too far. Our colleague Adnan that was robbed just here on that bridge, what did the police officers tell him? It's not their duty to run after thieves. Are you kidding me? He was robbed at about 7 p.m. It was a bit bright, or was it dark? And these guys came from under the bridge and took his Mac. Do you know how much a Mac is? They took his laptops, his phone. They robbed him, almost killed him. Thank God they did not. And he quickly ran and said, sirs, it was like, how can they start running after thieves? Imagine the effrontery. Now you see this, and that is why that cryptocurrency guy came out and said he gave this sort of amounts to he mentioned some individual, and we're like, oh please, and they were trying to douse that situation. It only shows that, it only speaks a lot of volume. That's all I will say. And of course, the Inspector General of Police, another person that carried Egbetukun, is doing a fantastic job. He has really reformed and reshaped the Nigerian police force. So we do not know whether this is like an avenue to bring him down or to show that you have not done enough. We do not know. I don't work for him. I'm not, like I always say, my boss at the moment is Dr. Ibrahim Biu. That's who I work for, Global TV. So I do not work for the Nigerian Police Force. I am not a PRO or any kind. It's just the news that we watch and we follow. But it's just unfortunate that this sort of thing has happened to just weaken the integrity of Nigeria and, of course, the Nigerian Police Force. It's just unfortunate. It shows that some of these police officers need to go back to understand what values are, what morale is, what it is for you to have integrity. Someone that would have said, no, you can do that. Someone would have stopped him. But you see, it's money. They say policemen, if you give them, back in the day it was 20 naira. They can kill someone because of 20 naira. What happened in Lagos 7 years ago? There was this policeman that wanted, was it 50 naira, and shot this tricycle driver because of, was it 20 or 50 naira? You see how it was before. There was non-challenges. They could do all what they want. But there's this rebrand and reshape of the Nigerian police that you see now. But it's just unfortunate that this has happened. I hope they come up with a statement fast, because we really want to know what played out there.
For me, I wouldn't even want a statement right now. I should be calling for a revoke of the Chinese visa. The Chinese man and the people involved in this particular visa should be revoked.
Really?
Because if one has such an effrontery like this, we see on the screen right now, to give money to the Nigerian police force, then it could metamorphose into something.
It's not going up to 10,000.
Automatic control of the Nigerian police force, and this can also put Nigerian police force in a very dark light.
Very dark.
As it stands right now. Well, if this happens in China, by now the Nigerian should be on his way back to China.
That minute.
You should be on your way back to Nigeria.
That minute.
By now they should have been. You would just be deported. Of course, Chinese visa is just for 6 months. You have to do renewal. But
exactly.
In this particular case, you would just be deported.
Immediately.
You will be bundled out of China.
Out of China. Chinese are very strict. I mean, I've been to Guangzhou in China.
Okay.
And you can imagine how. Anyway, let's not go into that. But please let the statement just come out fast, and let's just know all of this. It's just embarrassing, really embarrassing. The rep in China, I didn't get her name, but she was really pained that this is what is circulating and this is what is ongoing. This is what they portray Nigeria, and it's affecting them. That's the thing. We always rub up on our innocent citizens in these countries.
Well, I believe also that Abike Dabiri should be able to come out to speak up on this, because NINCOM need to talk about this, and we need to have an extensive conversation
They need to. It's just
around this. But let's move on. Let's see what's happening even in Kogi State. Well, the Kogi State, former governor of Kogi State, in the person of Yaya Bello.
What happened this time? Why are you always speaking on Kogi State?
I'm not picking on Kogi State.
Why did you just pass the news?
Okay, let's pass the news.
No, let's. Let's hear what happened in Kogi State.
Well, in Kogi State, where Yaya Bello has petitioned the IGP demanding Natasha's arrest. Well, he also demanded a retraction and public apology from the senator for the alleged defamatory statement which she made that they were after
Her family.
But of course, she came out to say it last week. She said this week that gunmen came after her family, and we read that on the various the national dailies. But could this be tied up to some of what she has said? That some certain persons are after her life. Could this be tied up to that? I don't know, but it's when we think that we've lost Natasha in the conversation. And we think that we're not going to hear about
springing
Natasha.
up.
But no, she's not springing up. It's Yaya Bello that is bringing her up.
But her name is there now.
The Gospel Akpabio before now has petitioned the IGP to also investigate the matter. Now Yaya Bello is coming out to also say, hey, this claim of assassination is a very strong one.
Very, very strong.
Please let her face the law for defamation. But we'll see how that plays out in Kogi State. What I like about the Natasha lately is that she doesn't talk much lately.
Of
she
course.
keeps to herself, and she's very.
But that doesn't mean that we're not dramatic, though.
No, we know that we know that she's staying back to come with full force.
You know, right?
Natasha that we know. When she doesn't talk, you know she's being calculated. Before you know what's going on, Yaya Bello will collect another one.
Are you serious? Exactly.
She's a very nice person. I just like her personality. She's very outspoken. She's very determined, and she's also a very, very caring person. She has a good heart for humanity.
Really?
Yes, she does.
Have you met her one-on-one?
No, but there's a quote that says, there's a social science quote that says, the best way to know a man is to observe him and keep records of what he does. So if you observe what she has been doing and try to keep record of what she has been doing, you know if this person has heart for humanity or not.
Yeah, it's obvious.
For people to come out to speak, most people I've not seen people from Kogi Central speak ill of her. That she's underperforming.
That's true.
She's not caring. She has been a very wicked person. We've not heard any of this rhetoric. But that is, if they are not saying the opposite, or as it stands right now, it means that she is a good person.
Yes.
But I've been following her antecedents since when she became a senator. I've not met her in person.
Most Kogi women are very nice.
Well, let's move on to the next conversation. let's not even go there, Jumai, this morning. let's not even start with that conversation.
Really?
And let's not start with that.
You started it.
No, we're talking about Natasha. We didn't say
I'm only telling you that some Kogi women are very nice, very caring, understanding. I don't know what's the problem.
Can we just say Nigerian women? Let's keep.
We're talking about people from Kogi State.
We're talking about Natasha.
Okay.
Good. Well, at this point, we'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll be going straight to a newspaper review. Please stay with us. The show continues in a moment. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range
are the latest news making rounds on Global Money.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
disbursing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
We must run in accordance with the constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
the Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
All right, you are welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Global Morning on Global Television. And about this point is the newspaper review segment. And we started with the first paper of the day, and it's the Punch newspaper. And above the nameplate on page 28 of the Punch, it says, Tinubu working remotely from overseas returns after Easter. And that's from the presidency. And you can get that read on page 28 of the Punch newspaper, giving you some very punchy headlines. And it says here, federal government declared 2 trillion Genco debt by December, and you can find that read on page 19. Dangote fuel pricey despite crude oil crash, S&P Global, and you can find that on page 24. And of course, on the Punches where it says here, El Rufai deserves fair treatment after supporting Tinubu. And that's Buhari's ex-minister, Shitu. And you can find that read on page 7. And the Star story there says epileptic electricity. Federal government to inject 1,900 megawatt solar power into grid. And you can find that Star story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And the writer says, government sets 8,000 megawatt power goal by 2027, taps private sector for grid expansion. And here on page 28 on the Punch, it says, Natasha urges police to restore security as gunmen raid home. Now on page 29, it says, emergency, Rivers administrator warns mischief makers. And it says here, Adeleke Makinde meet over Oyo Osun border tensions. And you can find that particular read on the Punch newspaper on page 19. Murder trial. It says here, I found Ataga in pool of blood, says Chidima. And you can find that read on page 4 and 5. Gani Adams, others reject Southwest Sharia panels. And those are all the story making rounds in the Punch newspaper. And of course, a lot of story that caught my eyes on the Punch. Talking about this Chidima issue, I found Ataga in pool of blood. We keep going back and forth with this issue. She says one thing today, says one thing another. It's not consistent. I do not understand. And at the same time, talking about Michael Gee's sister, Natasha urges police to restore security as gunmen raid home. Of course, you won't falsify this sort of issue. It's real, it happened. So I think the police and the necessary individuals should go into it and check what is going on. And of course, when things like this happen, there's always finger pointing at someone. I don't want to mention his name, but you and I know his name. So, because they've had issues. It's like when something happens to an individual and you have a misunderstanding with someone. They tell you, do you have a misunderstanding with someone? Has anyone threatened your life or anything? You point to the person that you have a misunderstanding with. So that's why fingers are being pointed to the Senate president. And let's talk about the federal government to inject 1,900 megawatt solar power into grid. Of course, you know, the electricity has been epileptic. Like I always say, we're not getting value for money. We are not getting value for money, but at the same time, hope the needful is done, because the government sets 8,000 megawatt power goal by 2027. We just have to let God keep each and every one of us. Fingers crossed to see how they want to tap into private sector for grid expansion. And please go and get yourself a copy of the Punch and be well informed on the stories and making round. Godwin, next paper.
All right, so the next paper here is the Daily Trust newspaper. Now, which just below the nameplates here, we have amidst 4 trillion naira electricity debt, Nigerian plans new subsidy model. We'll see how that plays out. NGF in Toplet 2 stakeholders resolve differences through dialogue. Don't run Hajj commission like sole administrator, Shatima tells chair. And it comes with a big story here that says Tinubu extends stay in Europe. Insecurity in North. Military replaces theater commander in Borno. NAF airstrikes bomb terrorists in Sambisa forest. All right, so the president, of course, the president is going to extend his stay in Europe, but we hope that this will bring a lot of. It comes with a lot of positive drive when he returns back into the country. Mr. President, we know that you're watching. Please, we are in support of your stay outside the country, but please, in coming back, I think that some of the things that we see outside the country, we can replicate them here in Nigeria, and it will help us go farther than where we are right now as a people and as a nation. And also, speaking of you've spoken about the electricity and tariff, but then the debt profile of electricity, about 4 trillion naira. Looking at those debts, one begin to ask salient questions. Where does electricity? Do we have leakages in our electricity? And of course, are the discos not paying when they're supposed to pay? Exactly. And if they don't pay, are there no modalities that is being put in place to ensure that they can be sanctioned and also penalized for not doing what they ought to do? Now, these are serious concerns for me.
Very serious concern. And that is why I say we're not getting value for our money. But I think we've not gotten to that stage yet in Nigeria where we have individuals who take responsibility for epileptic electricity, which people that are supposed to be there to monitor. I don't think we keep talking about it. We keep going back and forth on this matter. I think we have a long way to go when it comes to issue of electricity and all of these tariffs.
And then in that case, they should take us out of band A, band B, band C, and band
exactly.
D.
We can move forward.
We don't call it bandits now. For Juma will look at me.
Of course.
All right, let's move on to the next paper, Juma.
All right, the next paper is the Guardian newspaper, and I will be guiding us through that particular read on the Guardian. And below the nameplate of the Guardian newspaper, here it says, Benue killings, attacks are planned, not random occurrences, says David Mark. And of course, you can find that read on page 27. Rep alleges security operatives no plateau killers, and you can find that read on page 3. The unfortunate incident that's happening in Plateau, Jos, unfortunate incident with the killings and all of that is just unfortunate. Yesterday, if you listen to someone that came in, she's a lawyer, came in and spoke about the killings that happened in her own village in Jos. Unfortunate incident. Unfortunate is it people are dying on a daily. It's just unfortunate. I pray the needful is done. Gencos get 2 trillion naira pledges from federal government to avert blackouts, and you can find that read on page 3. And AI, is it a threat or opportunity? So, and the start story there says schools, teachers cite concerns, search for academic integrity. And of course, the picture story there says we need to make it real to evade AI detection tools. And it says, why are these essays similar? You know, AI is doing wonders now. It's making life more easier. It's making you write essays, letters, whatever you need, AI has got you. But of course, like the Star Story says, is it a threat or an opportunity? Because with AI now, a lot of people will be out of jobs soon. A lot. But we hope, let's just see how well this plays out. And you can find that read on page 4 and page 5. And here it says, Good Friday, seemingly ceaseless crucifixion of Nigeria. And you can find that read on page 12. Over 1.9 million students to sit for Nigerians' first digital WAEC. And you can find that on page 27. Reps caution against fraudsters as SEC denies registering CBEC. And you can find that read on page 7. Owoye dumps APC, cites lack of rule of law, justice. And that you can find on page 28. Presidency replies Atiku. Obi says Tinubu remains at work overseas. And you can find that read on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Tensions persist in Rivers as Tinubu's emergency rule clock 1 month. And basically, that is it. And here at the foot of the Guardian newspaper, it says, investor confidence in oil gas sector tied to reform execution survey finds. And you can find that particular read on page 28 of the Guardian newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well informed on the issues making rounds.
All right, the next paper here is the Nation's newspaper. With just above the nameplate, we have Why Ponzi Schemes Thrive by Expert. And it comes with a rider, Greed is chief driver. Of course, we heard about CBEX that happened just last week.
Exactly.
We will come back to that CBEX conversation because we have a lot of things to talk about the CBEX. Let's move on a bit. 1.9 million candidates for maiden CB WASC. Well, it comes to the rider, 574 schools disqualified. You find all of that story in the Nation's newspaper, page 25. Eastern Rail Line likely ready before 2027, says NRC MD. Governors pay condolence visit to Plateau over killings. You can find that story on page 2 and 3 of the Nation's newspaper. First Lady backs women farmers with 689 million naira per state. That's coming from the presidency. All right, so we have a picture story here of Arigbe and some other persons here. But then electricity crisis, big story. Electricity crisis. Government offers national grid to investors. Comes to the rider, 7 million meters shortfall being tackled, says minister. Well, all of that story you can find on the Nation's newspaper. Troops hit terrorists in Borno, Plateau, Kaduna, and others. And at the foot of the Nation's newspaper, we have a story here that says Emami accuses Delta governor of boundary manipulation. Natasha's family house attacked. You can find all of that read on page 2 and 3 of the nation's newspaper. Do well to go out there and get yourself a copy of the nation's newspaper. If time permits us, we'll talk about the CBEX. But let's go to the next paper, Juma. We'll talk about CBEX.
Why are you skipping the CBEX?
No, we'll come back. Let's just finish the papers. We'll come back to that CBEX.
I'm so excited to see. I don't know why Nigerians, we keep falling into this same trick over and over again.
Ponzi scheme.
But the truth is, we're looking for the easy way out of poverty. Can you really blame Nigerians?
But
the easy way out of poverty.
Yeah, the methods seem the same. There's the same method. Bring one person, come with a downliner, bring one person, bring other two people, enrich yourself. It's the same process. So it is even easy to detect. Now, it is being called, most of this thing come in the form of what we call AYID. That is high-yielding investment platforms.
Exactly.
So when people tell you, okay, bring in one naira, and we multiply that 1 naira into 500 million, you don't ask questions like, how is this going to happen? I like agriculture so much, not because I'm not a farmer, but I like agriculture so much. It gives you that opportunity to invest and also harvest. You invest and harvest. You invest into the ground. You have the time to cultivate. You monitor. You nurture it, and it grows, and you take it. That's how wealth is. But here you have people. The one that happened the other time by arbitrage.
I want to say something, but it's cracking me up. I want to say something.
Oh, please go ahead.
Like, are you sure you're not a marketer for these people?
No, Juma. You know, I've studied this.
Really?
I've studied it in such a way that I know the antics. I know the processes. When you see, okay, somebody walked up to me and told me to invest in arbitrage system, the one that was being hosted by JSAM, and all of those. I looked at it. I told the person, how much was it there? I think it was around 25,000 or thereabouts. I told the person, I'm not going to invest. I said, okay, no, you miss opportunity. This is the best opportunity. If you miss this one, you will not have another opportunity. I said, I'm not going to invest. So what are the odds? So, okay, look at this. I'm a speculator in the market. And like every speculator, be you the bull, be you the bear, be you a stag in the market, you understand the rudiment of the market.
Very
now,
true.
every market has its own principle. Now, it's for you to understand the cryptocurrency space. This conversation will be a very long one because we need to start dissecting it a bit by bit. So when you see, if you within the money market, you understand the way it works. You understand if you can forecast with the newspaper, like looking at the newspaper, looking at the breakdown, top gainers, top losers, you'll be able to understand the way markets work. And if you understand the way the markets work, it's easy for you to be able to detect what's going to go right or what's going to go wrong.
Very true.
In this particular case, when you look at the whole CBEX master plan, you look at the testimonies that follow CBEX, you look at the CBEX in itself, its structure, you now begin to ask yourself, what has come before CBEX?
Exactly.
How long has CBEX been in existence? Is CBEX really domiciled in Nigeria? If it is, how many percent in terms of cash is being deposited? Should there be a fraudulent activity? Like what happened with what they call this other one, this gold something this that we did the other time. But then before we now move to after MMM.
There's so many of them.
There
was one. What's the name?
Akatel and
a lot of them.
But I don't blame anybody on this. I blame first the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crime Commission. That's where my first blame goes to. Because if we're talking about all of this system, this is a financial enhancement or empowerment program.
Very true.
It's a high-yielding platform. All of a sudden, money start going into a particular account. Money start leaving Nigeria. Of course, the job of the EFCC is to monitor transactions. Not just frauds, but to monitor transactions, know the accounts that this money is going to. Why is this money going into this account? You don't wait for the CBEX to fold up before we now come out and now begin. I saw a video yesterday where one was crying. I saw it one of our sister
has to.
agencies. She was crying in front of the gate. She has lost her money. When the EFCC person came out to speak.
A lot. When you hear the amount, you'll be shocked that. So you guys have this kind of money in Nigeria.
This one is even good now. How much did people put in when it has to do with MMM?
A lot of people.
Well, a lot of people lost their integrity when that during the MMM saga. It was sad, and this one also, our heart goes out to as many that have lost their money.
There's
Because
so
the
many
EFCC
of
said
them.
they are partnering with the Interpol to get the money back and ensure that
that's going to take a while.
Like I do say, it's another rhetoric. It's a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah, exactly, to douse the situation, but it doesn't yield anything.
I should think at this point in time that social insurance should come in.
Very important.
And when people lose their money of this magnitude, they should be, to a certain extent, compensated or indemnified. But these people are not going to go back to square one, starting from the scratch. Now, this will now in turn breed high rise of crime in society, because if I've gotten to this point, and right now I'm here, first I am depressed. Secondly,
vulnerable.
Yes, so
anything goes.
Anything goes.
But at the same time, why do Nigerians keep falling into this? When we've seen series of individuals have gone into it, they have said the same story. It's like a pattern. Can't you see that it's a pattern?
It is a pattern, of course, but then I don't know. It's a sad pattern.
It's a very sad that you actually deprive or take people's hard-earned money, putting their trust in a particular thing that thinks that it will yield. But you cannot, can you blame individuals? Look at the economy. Everyone is looking for the fastest means out of poverty. Maybe that person that put in 14 million naira, that was the meal ticket for him to add more. He thought maybe it will double to 28 million naira.
It's a high yielding platform.
Exactly. And for the person to maybe jackpot or something, now see what has happened.
Nah, the person has been jackparized.
But it's just unfortunate. I just hope
it
the
is.
law enforcement agencies should please go outside these Ponzi's that are actually.
And the law enforcement agencies should be proactive other than being responsive.
Please. We're tired of you're actually working with Interpol. Although it's fine, give us assurance. But the truth is, what comes after the assurance? Do we have hope? Is there hope? So it's just unfortunate. Let's just move on to the next paper. And of course, that's the last paper on the newspaper review. It's the Vanguard. And above the nameplate says federal government declared 2 trillion naira of 4 trillion naira Genco's debt. And it says here NBA slams Rivers administrator over alleged disregard for rule of law. And you can find that on page 12. Gunmen attack Senator Akpoti Udanga's country home, damage property. And you can find that on page 6. Now, Deep Sea Ayari Emami urges federal government to investigate removal of Iborodo, other Isekiri communities. And you can find that on page 7. Now, below the nameplate of the Vanguard, the star story there reads, this is a special report, how bandits, killer herdsmen have impacted farming food supply. Unfortunate incident. And you can find that read on page 5. And it says, Benue was hit. Governor Alia laments states can't feed itself. Oh, goodness. And of course, Benue is the food basket of the nation.
Yeah.
Oh, God. As farmers stay away from farms and out of fear, courageous ones made to pay levies. Oh my goodness. Situations responsible for soaring food prices. It's just unfortunate. We know that Benue State is the food basket. I remember back in the day when my dad was still in service. He was serving in Benue, and then that was when I knew that we had very large, very big mangoes.
Mango, the one that's big like my head.
My dad would bring very large mangoes, bags of stuff when it comes to food items, and you just wonder what is going on. Like back in the day, you could know that really Benue is the food basket of the nation, but now it's just unfortunate that it's nothing to write home about with all of these insurgencies.
When I got to Boko and Vandekia, I thought I love food. When I got to Boko, I entered Vandekia. Oh my God!
What did you eat there?
Well, it's okay, but you might. It's okay.
What did you eat there? All right now. And on page 9 of the Vanguard, you say WhatsApp to cut off millions of Nigerians using old phones. Can you imagine?
I didn't read that, Jumai. You did.
Can you imagine? All right, now on page 9, and this is from the presidency. It says Tinubu's return to Abuja after Easter holiday. Okay. And here it says, Malamitu Al-Makura Group, you can't speak for CPC block. And then find that read on page 8. Now on sports, it says 2026 World Cup still possible for Super Eagles Olofunjana. And of course, there's a cartoon character, Mr. and Mrs. Of course, you know, the Vanguard is always famous for their cartoons. It says, wow, there goes the new guy in the neighborhood. He's so charming. He's a ladies' man and he's got swagger. And I've got a dagger. That's the husband to the wife. That's funny.
It shows that you like the animation in Vanguard.
Yes, I do. That's funny. And with that, we have to wrap it up on the newspaper review segment. Please go out and get yourself a copy of all the newspapers making headline. I mean, well informed on the issues making round. And it's Global Morning. Do not go anywhere. The AM News continues shortly. Stay tuned.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Jumai Manson. Now, quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. You can download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. Now the news in full. President Bola Tinubu has approved the release of 120 billion naira to the Federal Ministry of Education to advance the ministry's technical and vocational education and training agenda. The Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaba Ahmed, stated this in her speech at the commissioning of the Community and Education Center at Ikot Abasi, Akwa Ibom State. This came as the federal government prepares to empower at least 650,000 youths with the technical, vocational, and digital skills required to meet emerging industrial and labor needs. The All Progressive Congress, APC, has held a major unity rally in Abuja, signaling renewed political momentum and grassroots consolidation ahead of upcoming political engagements. Speaking at the event, the national chairman of APC, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, emphasized the importance of internal unity and a straightened grassroots network in securing future electoral victories. Sharon Ajay completes the story.
The old parade ground in the Federal Capital Territory was the center of political activities as the APC hosted a unity rally attended by party loyalties, stakeholders, and high-profile figures from across the 6 area councils. APC National Chairman Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje says APC stands on the pillars of inclusivity, progressive governance, and grassroots development. He reaffirmed the party's growing influence in the FCT and encouraged continued alignment across political structures.
The chairman, who's all his elected councillors, who's all his appointed councillors, who's all the politicians from PDP, now they have decided to come to our great party, the APC.
In a welcome address, the APC FCT chairman, Honorable Abdulmalik Usman, commended the courage of the decampees and assured them of full integration into the party structure. Usman says the rally underscores the APC's openness and commitment to inclusive politics. He added that the FCT chapter remains focused on deepening its grassroots reach and preparing for future contests.
He is coming to join us today. Right. But it's not less than 20,000 people across the 12th ward of Abuja Municipal Council. Your Excellency, we also have not less than 10,000 people that are joining us in Buhari Area Council and across other area councils.
The National Vice Chairman of the APC for the North Central Zone, Honorable Alhaji Muhazu Bawa Rijau, called for unity, party discipline, and enhanced participation across all levels. Rijau says internal harmony is essential for sustainable political success. He urged stakeholders to prioritize community engagement and effective mobilization.
This is a clear testimony that we in the FCT, we are ready, we are ever ready for the council election. Come 2006. Mr. Chairman, I will assure you that we are going to give the same overseas in the FCT.
The unity rally is seen as a strategic move by the APC to consolidate its position in the nation's capital and reinforce its presence across the North Central geopolitical zone. One of the high points of the rally was the official presentation of new members who recently decamped to the APC. Among them was the executive chairman of Abuja Municipal Area Council, Honorable Christopher Zaka May Kalongo, who pledged loyalty to the party and readiness to contribute to its growth. Sharon Ajay reporting for Global TV News.
Thank you, Sharon, for that report. The 6th African Regional Conference on Irrigation and Drainage has successfully concluded in Abuja, Nigeria, with the theme Tackling Irrigation Development and Water Management Crisis in Africa. The conference brought together experts, policymakers, and stakeholders from across the continent to address pressing challenges in water management and agricultural sustainability. Here's Godwin Sunday's report.
The Honorable Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development, Mahmoud Abubakar, has called for an urgent need for innovative strategies to transform irrigation system across Africa. He highlighted the continent's challenges, including inadequate infrastructure, financial constraint, and government issues, urging collaborative effort to overcome these barriers.
And number 1 SDG is on poverty. Number 2 is zero hunger. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. Number 13, climate action. When we talk about water scarcity, people have inadequate access to water for irrigation in agricultural zones, which by extension limits food production and thereby exacerbating hunger and malnutrition.
Throughout the conference, participants engaged in technical sections, policy dialogues, and site visits to key irrigation zones across Nigeria. Discussion centered on sustainable agriculture, climate resilience, and enhancing food security. Speaking during the panelist section, Dr. Mike Smith, the Director General of the International Water Management Institute, IWMI, reaffirmed its commitment to supporting smallholder farmers.
Many progress has been made. There are 2 things very quickly, and we can come back upon later. First of all, there's too much discrepancy between the urban areas and the rural areas. Significant increase has been done in the urban areas, peri-urban areas, but so much needs to be done, especially in the rural areas. Second thing, very quickly, we need to have access to data. As it always has been said, you cannot manage what you cannot control.
On the other hand, Dr. Mako Asari, president of ICEED, also pledged its commitment to boost livelihood and strengthen agricultural economies.
Poverty rates in rural areas remain stubbornly high. And one of the things highlighted in this conference is water can really make a difference to progress with that challenge. And in particular, we must think of water and irrigation development in terms of driving transformation through water.
The patron of ICEED, Dr. Suleiman Hassan Adamu, the immediate past Minister of Water Resources, thanked all participants and urged them to indigenalize what has been learnt.
Unfortunately, our efforts, as you well know, to try to get the proper legal backing under a new Consolidated Water Resources Bill didn't yield fruit because some politicians thought it meant something else, and despite all our efforts to make the country educated about what this bill is and what it means to the people of this country, emotions prevailed over common sense.
As the conference concludes, stakeholders express optimism that the resolutions and partnership formed will pave the way for a more sustainable and food security in Africa. Godwin Sunday reporting for.
The fractional chairman of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, El Jibrin Dagowa, has deepened the recent visit to APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje by some members of the party as a deliberate attempt in the best interest of the party. Addressing a news conference, Dagowa said the party leadership in Kano is fully aware of the visit to Ganduje by Kawu Samaila-led group. Global TV correspondent Idris Jibrin reports.
Senator Kawu Sumaila and some other lawmakers from the opposition New Nigeria People's Party in Kano paid a special visit to the national chairman of the APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, a visit that generated concern among party supporters in Kano, but not among the party leadership. According to the chairman, the visit is meant to foster political collaboration between the NNPP and the APC at both state and national level, stressing that it's too early to start speculating.
Going around in the media, outfit, especially in social media, that our children, that is our sons, Senator Kawu Sumaila, Honorable Kabir Al-Asararun, Honorable Alamadaki, Honorable Badamasi Dambata, and Honorable Abdullahi Sanurogo were in APC National Chairman's house. I want to make it clear that at least they went to APC's National Chairman house with our consent. Why we allow them to go is we want them to go and start discussing, because politics is not, politics is about inclusiveness. We want at least to start discussing on way forward.
The party leadership therefore confirms that the Kawu Sumaila-led group visit to Ganduje is fully endorsed by the executive of the party in Kano, bearing in mind the interests of their constituencies.
This politics is about what? It's about game of number. It's about interest. It's about interest. So Kabiru and others, they have their own interest. They have the interest of the people they are representing, and they have the interest of those that, the area that equally they are representing. So at least whatever they are discussing, if it is for the good of the people they are representing, if it is for the good of the area they are representing, I think we have the mandate they have our own mandate to pursue those discussions with the APC National Chairman.
While political atmosphere begins heating up in Kano, there are expectations that the El Jibrin-led NNPP may likely decamp to the APC in the near future. From Kano, Idris Jibrin reporting for Global Television News.
The Nigerian Army has appointed Lieutenant Colonel Oyeyechi Anele as the Acting Director of Army Public Relations. She is the first woman to occupy the position. Anele, a member of the Direct Regular Course 15 and a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Her appointment takes effect from April 22, 2025. In a bid to solidify the partnership fostering through the Nigerian South Africa Bi-National Commission recently inaugurated by President Bola Tinubu and President Cyril Ramaphosa, the ministers of solid minerals of both nations have signed a memorandum of understanding outlining key areas of cooperation, complete with implementation timelines. Sharon Ajay completes the story.
During a bilateral meeting in his office in Abuja, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Alake, hosted South Africa's Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwande Matashi. Dr. Alake described the engagement as a milestone in deepening bilateral relations, especially in the vital mining sector. Reflecting on the historical ties between the two countries, Alake noted the long-standing diplomatic and economic cooperation built on the mutual respect and a shared vision for Africa's development. He stressed that collaboration in the mining sector offers vast opportunities for industrialization, job creation, and sustainable growth across the continent.
As we proceed, like I said, let us remain guided by the principles of mutual benefit. It is through this principle of mutual benefit that the rest of Africa can also benefit. So aim to strengthen our capacity building through these collaborative efforts and meetings. We need to strengthen our technical and regulatory frameworks through joint training and research initiatives.
Alake says the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding in Geology, Mining and Mineral Processing will serve as a cornerstone for facilitating knowledge and technology transfer, investment promotion, capacity building, regional integration, as well as value addition. He emphasized Nigeria's renewed focus on developing its mining industry, stating that South Africa could benefit from Nigeria's vast mineral wealth, while Nigeria could tap into South Africa's advanced mining expertise,
which is sharing best practices in exploration, in extraction, and beneficiation to enhance efficiency and sustainability. Also is geared towards investment promotion, encouraging cross-border investments in mining projects and downstream industries.
In his remarks, South Africa's Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwande Matashi, affirmed that South Africa, where mining plays a central role in the economy, stands to gain from Nigerians' revitalized interest in the sector. He added that his visit aims to fine-tune agreement from the Binational Commission and to deepen collaboration on mutually beneficial projects with Nigeria's Ministry of Solid Minerals Development.
South Africa can find each other and work together. I can assure you Africa will be different. I'm making this point because we're in a continent which is the least developed continent in the world. We're very rich in mineral resources and oil and gas.
Both ministers committed to sustained engagement and collaborations to boost intra-African trade and deliver on the actionable steps outlined in the MOU. They expressed confidence that this renewed partnership would significantly enhance the mining sectors of both countries. Sharon Ajay reporting for Global TV News.
You're watching the live broadcast of AM News. When AM News returns, Trump contemplates closure of U.S. embassies in Africa. Details coming shortly, plus business and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is AM News on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has urged ministries, departments and agencies of government to prioritize data sharing and dialogue, which are central to streamlining the business environment and enhancing the ease of doing business in Nigeria. Stanley Uwocha, Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Communications, Office of the Vice President, said this in a statement. Uwocha noted that the Vice President employed MDAs as well as members of the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council to deepen synergy to ensure a more enabling business climate in the country. The Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, says in the last 12 years it has been making consistent positive returns. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer Aminu Umar Sadiq made this known at the NSIA's media engagement on the authority's 2024 earnings presentation in Abuja. Queen Agaba has more.
Speaking on NSIA's broader investment outlook, the Managing Director and CEO, Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, Aminu Umar Sadiq, says the authority has adopted a defensive asset allocation strategy across its Stabilization Fund and Future Generations Fund to withstand global economic uncertainty, particularly in light of political challenges in the United States. He reveals that the authority has attracted over $1 billion in third-party capital for infrastructure investment, in addition to committing $500 million of its own funds. He cited the financial guarantor, which grew from over $25 million to over $300 million in attracted capital, and ongoing efforts by Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company and MedServ to secure significant investments.
Umar here. We took time to perfect the business model, perfect the pricing, optimize the patient experience, optimize the training, and off the back of that, when the business model was perfected, then we commenced the expansion process, going from 1 oncology center to 4, and going from 2 diagnostic centers to 12. And we're in the process of constructing those centers. We have signed the definitive binding agreements for the machinery, for the equipment, and by 4th quarter of this year, we should be live, fully operationalized in phase 1, in phase 2 of our MedServe expansion process.
The managing director further reveals that the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority will soon end its intervention in the fertilizer blending sector under the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. This follows an 8-year effort that has seen the number of functional blending plants grow from just 4 in 2017 to more than 90 across the country. Umar Sadiq noted that the authority has fulfilled its mandate in resuscitating the sector as its continued involvement is no longer necessary.
And so we started that program in 2017. But what was important and what was crucial in terms of that business model was to ensure that the focus, the objective was to resuscitate the sector so that the blending plants are actually independent. It was not to sustain NSI's continued engagements, continued intervention in the sector. And so essentially what we did, we started off buying all the raw materials, transporting everything to the blending plants, paying the blending plants to pay, to blend, and then selling the fertilizer in from the gate of the blending plants. And then as each of these blending plants then essentially had a historical record for cash flows, then NSI then pulled back slightly.
He further explained that the liberalization of the sector, strengthened by the Central Bank of Nigeria's removal of foreign exchange restrictions on the importation of inputs, has attracted active market participants. Take 2. He further explained that the liberalization of the sector, strengthened by the Central Bank of Nigeria's removal of foreign exchange restrictions on the importation of inputs, has attracted active market participants capable of sustaining operations without NSIA's intervention. For Global Television, Queen Akaba reporting.
On sports stories now, the National Sports Commission, NSC, has commended Team Nigeria's outstanding performance at the recently concluded International Table Tennis Federation ITTF World Para Future Tournament in Amman, Jordan, where the nation displayed its powers in para tennis, table tennis by finishing among the top 3 teams globally. Over the 3-day championship, which took place from April 13th to 15th, Nigeria amassed a remarkable haul of 5 gold, 7 silver, and 2 bronze medals, competing against powerhouses such as Germany, Iran, and host nation Jordan. Nigeria stood tall as one of only 3 African nations in attendance, alongside Egypt and South Africa. Now, as we end the Global TV AM News, let's take a quick look at our top stories again. Unknown gunmen stormed the family house of Senator Natasha Akpoti in Ihimi, Ukahi local government area of Kogi State. In business, Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has urged ministers, departments, and agencies of government to prioritize data sharing and dialogue, which is central to streamlining the business environment and enhancing the ease of doing business in Nigeria. On the foreign news now, the Trump administration is reportedly considering shutting down nearly 30 embassies and consulates worldwide, including several in Africa, as part of a broader plan to streamline Americans' diplomatic presence abroad. And in sports, the National Sports Commission has commended Team Nigeria's outstanding performance at the recently concluded ITTF World Para Future Tournament in Amman, Jordan, where the nation displayed its prowess in para table tennis by finishing among the top 3 teams globally. And that's it on Global TV AM News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @Global TV NG. You can download the Global TV Nigerian app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Good morning. Global Morning continues shortly. Stay tuned.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
dispersing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
We must run in accordance with the Constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
A very good morning to you again and welcome to Global Morning on Global Television. My name is Godwin Sunday. Joining me to talk about the accessing the Bola Tinubu's administration and how far he has come so far in terms of the fact that the Nigerian economy tends to be navigating significantly and changes have been initiated into the economy. But have these changes been of impact to the people of Nigeria, and how best can we help in also positioning the economy so that the average Nigerian can also testify of the improvements or otherwise of the economy? Joining me this morning is Nick Aguli, and is joining me in this conversation. Good morning, Nick Aguli. Good morning, Nick. All right, trying to get Nick into the conversation this morning. By the way, Nick is a public affairs analyst and is also an economist. Good morning, Nick. You're welcome to Global Morning. All right, so we're looking at the various economic indices that has also helped to build the country, and also we're looking at all of this conversation from different angles and also trying to understand the fundamentals of the economy right now, and what are the indices that have been put in place that is working for us, and also what are the other indices that we are not also doing right now. How do we also improve on some of the provisions of our economic councils and also to ensure that we have an improvement in all of this. Well, we'll go for a short break right now. When we come back, we'll be talking with Nick Agule. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Joining me to talk about economic issues in Nigeria this morning is Nick Agule. You're welcome to Global Morning, Nick. Good morning, Nick. You're welcome to Global Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Good morning to our viewers globally.
All right. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. Now, let's delve into the conversation. First, people say that the Nigerian economy have seen a very tremendous growth from where it was to where we are right now due to the subsidy removal and other policies of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. But so far, so good. How will you assess the economic policy of the President?
Thank you very much for the question. I think those who say that the economy has improved tremendously since the implementation of the current administration's economic policies has started need to put the evidence forward. It's not just about saying the economy has improved. We are Nigerians, we're in Nigeria. We know it when the economy has improved because we feel it. And if we need someone to tell us that it is actually improving, then they need to say these are the areas where it is improving. For instance, if I'm a Nigerian and I was buying petrol at less than 200, and now I am buying petrol close to 1,000 naira, and you tell me that the economy is improving, you have to tell me how that's improving, because I am still buying petrol at nearly 1,000 naira. Right? I'm still paying for electricity at the higher band A, whatever. The dollar is still 1,500, 1,600 from the 460 it was by 29th of May, 2023. You see? So, and you know, why we talk about petrol, we talk about dollar, is that it affects the cost of goods and services that we buy. So for people who are transporting themselves to work, for instance, if their transport to work was 250, coming back 250, which was 500 naira, but now it is 2,000 to go, 2,000 to come back, 4,000 naira. I wonder how they will agree that the economy has improved when they are still paying 4,000 naira to go to work. You know, when they are still paying high cost of electricity. And the exchange rate impact is that anything that is imported is going to be more expensive. So for instance, someone who is suffering a long-term ailment, when the dollar was 460 to a naira, and the drugs that they buy cost them 2,000 naira. And because the dollar is now 1,500, 1,600, that imported drug now needs 10,000 naira from them. They are still buying the drugs at 10,000. So how would you tell them the economy is improving? Those who use electricity, we used to experience power cuts, and there's still power cuts. So you see, the point here is that the president took very major decisions, which elevated on their own can be seen to be good for the benefit of the economy. But he has so far not taken steps to make things to work. And what I mean here is that for you to carry out a surgical operation on a human body, you can't just take the knife and start tearing the person apart. There is what medical community says is an anesthesia. The anesthesia is what you apply to the body so that when you are doing the surgical operation, the body will feel less pain. So the president's economic policies are like cutting open someone's body to carry out a surgery to save the person, but there's no anesthesia that is being applied. And you know what? If doctors are like opening the womb or a man's stomach to carry a surgical operation without applying anesthesia, even though there are good intentions of trying to save the person's life, will lead to catastrophe because the person will most likely die. Without anesthesia, the pain will be too much, so they'll go into shock and die. And for me, this is how President Tinubu's economic policies are affecting Nigerians. As good as they sound, as good as they look, as good as they are, the president is failing to apply anesthesia. If you give me a minute or more, I can explain what that means. So let's take, for instance, the petrol price. So the president inherited petrol price of less than 200 naira a liter, upon which subsidy was being paid. He now says subsidy is gone. So that took petrol price overnight to 500 naira, 700, 800 to 1,000 naira, where it is now. So what is the anesthesia that the president should be applying? Because this hike in petrol price has caused untold damage on workers' incomes in terms of the higher cost of transportation that they are paying now. The president needed to find a way to deal with the high cost of transportation for the workers. For instance, he has promised over and over again that he's going to bring CNG buses. I wonder how many workers are enjoying CNG buses to their places of work and paying maybe half of what they are now paying as transportation costs. That's an anesthesia. Is it there? You know, food cost is very expensive now because we are importing a lot of food into Nigeria, and workers are now finding it difficult to feed their children because how much was a bag of rice when the president took over and how much is a bag of rice now? What has the president done to to boost food supply in Nigeria, food production? How many places has the president ordered the security to clear away the bandits and return the farmers to their farms, give them machines so that they can produce a lot of food for Nigerians? You know, that's not happening.
But Nick,
yeah.
I know you agree to a very large extent that the president also inherited a hailing economy. Although the economy that he inherited was not that balanced, but what we've seen so far is that the president was able to liberalize the exchange rate and thereby leading to the depreciation of the naira. We saw the naira rose up to 1,500, but naira right now is coming down. Can't we say at this point that this is the right step in the right direction, and the president has taken a very lucrative step in enhancing the economy so far?
You say the naira is coming down. To what rate?
Well, the last exchange rate, we know that about the naira reduced to about 1,400 as against what it was before now. So that is a good, it's depreciated.
I have not seen naira at 1,400, and I need evidence to that, because even as at last week, the naira was 1,600 because given the tariffs policy of the American government, it started impacting on the naira. So the naira started going up. It was almost trying to touch 1,700 before the central bank intervened in the market. And when the central bank intervened in the market, the naira, appreciated to 1.6. Naira, but the data is there. Nigerians can view that data by themselves. But there's something we need to talk about. So when this current government came into power in 2023, there are a number of subsidies that Nigerians were enjoying and for which government was spending money to fund. Agreed that there were criminality with those subsidies. So this government now removed those subsidies. And specifically, what are the subsidies? Number one, there was subsidy on petrol, which government was paying. They removed it. Number two, there was subsidy on electricity, which Nigerians were paying. The government said they reduced it. Number three, there was subsidy on foreign exchange, the one we're talking about. Again, the government removed it. So it was now expected that since this government has removed all these subsidies and they are no longer paying these subsidies, the government will now have a lot of money, which they can now channel into developmental efforts like healthcare, education, public transportation, security, and all of that. But you know what? This government is borrowing more money than the previous government. So we need to ask the question, okay, you guys are not paying these subsidies. You expected to have a lot more money now. Why are you therefore now borrowing money at this level? I mean, these are the questions that the government needs to come forward and tell us. What the government is doing, we are the account holders, right? We own the accounts of government. Nigerians, it's like a bank refusing to show us what is happening in our bank accounts. Let the government come forward with numbers and say, look, we saved X trillions from petrol subsidies. We saved X trillions from foreign exchange subsidies. We saved so billions from electricity subsidy. This is where we put the money. We are not seeing that, and rather the government is borrowing heavily. So it is very debatable to see where the economic policies are impacting on the everyday Nigerian. Those of us who are on the street, where exactly are we benefiting in these economic policies? That is the question that the government will need to answer. And if they tell us and they say, oh, you are enjoying lower cost of food, you are enjoying lower cost of transportation, you are enjoying lower electricity, you are now enjoying better healthcare, your children are going to better schools, we have this plan to boost electricity supply, we have awarded this contract to construct railways so that you can go to work with trains, which is cheaper and all of that. At least if they point us to that, we'll say, okay, we didn't see, but we can see the projects that are coming up. So it's quite debatable to see where the supply side of the economy is happening. Because see, what's happening here is that the government is doing these policies on the demand side of the economy, but they have to complement it with policies on the supply side. For instance, if you make foreign exchange, if you make the naira to collapse from 460 to 1,500, you have to take steps to ensure that you are now producing locally. You are not depending on import, because if you depend on imports, the imports will be expensive for your people. But if you produce locally, then of course you won't depend on the dollar, so things will be better. For instance, look at petrol now. What has the government done to Nigeria's 4 refineries since you remove petrol subsidy? I expected that on the day that the president made the statement that petrol subsidy is gone, on that same day he will say that I am handing over Nigeria's 4 refineries to the private sector. It's been 2 years since, and within these 2 years, I can tell you that some of the refineries would have fully come back into operation, and by now Nigeria will be getting cheaper petrol prices at the pump. That has not happened. He has left the refineries in the hands of the NNPCL, who are playing games with us. So this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
an improvement in terms of the minimum wage that has been moved from 30,000 to 70,000 naira. I think that's a plus for the government. Also, the government have come up with an economic blueprint in terms of its growth strategy, in terms of the student loan projects that have been initiated. And just to mention but a few that the president has done, even in terms of the judicial officer order salaries and allowance, that has also been improved upon. Now, all of these indices shows that the president should or is in the right direction, or don't you think so?
Okay, so let's talk about the three that you have put on the table. For minimum wage, I am very sure that many workers, majority of workers in Nigeria, if you ask them now, do you want minimum wage at 70,000 and pay 2,000 naira to work every day, or you want minimum wage at 30,000 where you were before and pay 200 naira to work? Majority of them, if not all of them, are going to tell you that please give me that 30,000 naira minimum wage and leave my transportation cost as it was before this current government came into being. That's what has happened. You will see that the increase in the minimum wage is not sufficient to deal with the increase in the costs that workers are now facing. How much was a bag of rice 2 years ago? How much is a bag of rice now? Right? How much was the drugs that people were taking 2 years ago? How much is the drugs now? You know, and you know that in a family, most families, as you see today, when they wake up in the morning, the father is taking transportation to work, the mother is taking transportation to the market, the children are taking transportation to school, and that transportation has increased by more than 4 times. Whereas you just move minimum wage from 30,000 to 70,000. The choices are very difficult, you know. And I like in Lagos, I hear now that there are people who are sleeping in the offices from Monday to Friday, because if they go home and come back every day, their salaries will not be enough to pay for their transportation costs and things like that. And then you have insecurity all over the country, you know, banditry, kidnapping. If you have 70,000 naira minimum wage in your pocket, but you don't sleep with your 2 eyes closed, how does that benefit you? So, of course, insecurity didn't start with the current government, but it's been 2 years, and we are wondering what is the current government doing differently from the previous government. Then you mentioned the case of student loans. Yes, student loan is a good thing. Yeah, they did. That's a very good thing. It ensures that students who are indigent, they don't have money and all of that, can access higher education. So I give it to them on that one. I say it's fine, because like you said, it's not everything that is bad. There are certain things that are good. This student loan thing, this particular one for student loan, is a good one. I'm trying to recall the third one you mentioned, but
well, the third one I mentioned is the judiciary improvements in judiciary salary across board.
Okay, yes, of course, which is good. The salary package for judicial officers is a good one, but it's not just about giving them improved salaries. It's also about ensuring that they are justifying those salaries. The judiciary in Nigeria today is looking like the problem. It's looking like the real problem. The judiciary in Nigeria today, they are delivering judgments that, you know, are very difficult to believe. And they themselves are not able to explain some of the judgments that they are delivering. You know, as it is said, the judiciary is meant to be the last hope of the common man. But if the judiciary is no longer siding with the common man, but they are no longer blind in giving their judgment, but they are looking at faces and delivering judgment based on who is involved in any case, then that's a problem. And it's a real problem in Nigeria. The judiciary needs to sanitize themselves. They need to cleanse themselves, and so that they can be thankful to us for the increase in their wages and emoluments.
Well, while you were speaking earlier, you mentioned the fact that a lot of Nigerians are yet to also feel the impact of the Bola Tinubu's economic policies, even at the grassroots. if I understood you well. But could this be that it is due to probably lack of awareness that a lot of Nigerians are not feeling the impact, the positive drive of the economic initiative of Mr. President?
But so the point here is this: if you walk into a room that is hot, the room is really hot, you don't need anybody to tell you that you have walked into a room that is heating up. You feel it yourself. You can tell. You will start sweating. You see the evidence. And then on the contrast, if you walk into an air-conditioned room that is cool, you don't need anybody to tell you that you are now in a room that is air-conditioned, is cool. You feel it yourself. You know it yourself. You can attest to it because it is an experience that you are undergoing. You know, so the government doesn't need to tell us that things are getting better. Why? We were buying petrol. I have to repeat it again. We buy petrol at less than 200. We are now buying it at about 1,000. Is that an improvement? Is that what you would judge as an improvement? Do you understand? Even if the petrol comes down to 800, it is still above the 200 that we're buying. Yeah? And then number two, if something was imported, like for instance, a food item was imported and dollar was 460 when it was being imported, now dollar is 1,500, meaning that thing has tripled, if not quadrupled in price. Are you buying it cheaper now? You know, are you buying it cheaper? Has security improved? You know, banditry and all the criminality going on in Nigeria, has it improved? Have government people stop chopping our money? You know, are we seeing budgets really being implemented? In the communities where we live, is there any water project that they have started doing? We don't expect them to finish a water project in 2 years, but at least you will see the construction work for the water project now, and you hope that in a number of years you are going to have water in your community. How many megawatts of electricity has this government added to ensure that power supply, if at all has not already improved, will improve in due course? Are you aware of any major construction of a power project in Nigeria that will add something like 500 to 1,000 megawatts? Are you aware of anywhere? And can you run an economy without power? You know, so it's not about just coming to say band A, band B. On the other hand, what is the government doing to improve the power supply? Because it is with more supply that the price will come down. It's a basic law of economics to say that the higher the supply, the lower the price. You know, what's happening? Is there any contract that this government has awarded that would extend railway service in Nigeria? Because you know what I talk about railway? Railway is the means that takes workers to work very cheaply, cheaper and safer. You know, because on a typical day, if you see people on the road in cars and buses, one train can carry all of them. And they will just, all of them, join hands to pay petrol for that train. It will be far cheaper for them. As we speak today, the federal capital of Nigeria is connected by rail to only one state capital, and that is Kaduna. Has this government liberalized the sector, unbundled the sector, taking away this thing from the Nigerian Railway Corporation that can't offer anything, and invited the private sector? And we are now on our way to start connecting Nigeria's federal capital to the other 35 state capitals. Is there anything happening like that anywhere? You journalists can tell us if there's anything happening like that. You know, so at the end of the day, you discover that we're still in the same place, even though on the demand side, things are becoming more expensive. On the supply side, what is it? Who can tell us how their life is better now than it was 2 years ago? Maybe they can come to the studio and tell us how their lives are better.
At this point, Mr. Nick, we'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll still talk more, even looking at the fact that livelihood support, even across states, has improved. Reduction in revenue debt services ratio also has reduced from 97 to 68% as it stands right now. Job creation still stands at 2,400 jobs through 10 micro, small, and medium enterprises. Also, looking at some of the achievements of the president, we will want you to rate all of these after this short break. Let's get the full assessment from you. Please stay with us as the show continues in a moment. All right, welcome back. It's still being joined by Nick Agulea. We're talking about the economic policy of President Bola Tinubu in terms of how it has improved on the Nigerian economy. All right, so before we went on that break, I was trying to find out from you, Nick, looking at the livelihood support across different states and also the reduction in debt services and also job creation, about 240,000 jobs through and micro, small, and medium enterprises, all of this that has also added up to improve on the economy. With this touch of droplets of economic impact, how will you assess all of this put together? Can we say that the President Bola Tinubu's administration has already surpassed its predecessors in terms of economic growth for the country?
First and foremost, let me take you on the debt service. You know that as we speak right now, Nigeria is sitting on a time bomb in terms of our budget. Nigeria made a budget of 37 or 38, 39 trillion naira. And then the government now did a supplementary budget that took the budget to 54 trillion. But there's something that Nigerians may not have noticed. When the budget was jacked up to 54 trillion, the government didn't say how they will fund it. So you should know that that funding is going to come from that. That's number one. Number two, the budget is predicated on Nigeria producing 2 million barrels of crude oil. As we speak now, we have not produced 2 million barrels of crude oil and we are in the 4th month of the year. So that means less revenue than projected. Number three, The government projected that they are going to earn $75 per barrel of crude oil produced. As we speak now, oil is 60-something dollars. In fact, with Donald Trump's trade wars, oil went below $60, right? But it's now recovered to 60-something dollars, but it's not close to $70. Not to talk about 75. So you can see that the budget is in a financial crisis already. The quantity is like if you said, I'm going to sell 10 yams for 1,000 naira each, and therefore you are now expecting 10,000 as revenue. As of today, you are selling 6 yams. That's number one. Even if you are selling 6 yams at 1,000, it will be 6,000. It will be up to your 10,000. But you are not only selling 6 yams, you are selling 6 yams at 500 naira, making your money to be 3,000 naira instead of the 10,000 you are expecting. That is what is happening to Nigeria now. And we are going to see either of two things. Number one is either they refuse to implement the budget. That means there's no money to implement the budget. So the budget will just be on paper, or they will have to go and borrow money to come and fund the budget. And if they borrow money to fund this budget, this debt service that you're talking about is going to be thrown into the water, right? Because there will be a lot more debt that will be borrowed, and a lot more will go to servicing of the debt, And, let me tell you one thing. If this government had competent economic policy advisors, they should have told them that there is something you call foreign direct investment. And then there is something you call foreign portfolio investment. Foreign portfolio investment is that people bring in money, they buy our treasury bills and things like that, and we give them a humongous interest, and then when they want to take their money out, we pay them the interest, they take the money, convert it to dollar and leave. It's very injurious to our economy. This government should be pursuing foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment is an investment where the investor comes to invest in the economy. I can give you a good example. Foreign direct investment is like MTN, Airtel, Glo, Nine Mobile. They didn't come to give Nigeria a loan. Rather, they brought their money and invested in telecoms infrastructure. And from that infrastructure, they are delivering telecom services to Nigerians, and they are making money. So there's a win-win here. They are making money from their investment. Nigeria didn't have a loan on our balance sheet, but the investment that they have made has created jobs, has made us to be able to use telephone services freely. As you can see, telephone services are more readily available in Nigeria and cheaper than power supply. And why is that so? Because the power supply is still in the hands of government. And that is why we can't see electricity. Maybe your studio now, you are running on generator or solar or something, and then it's very expensive. So a government that wants to bring in development looks for foreign direct investment. They create the enabling environment for foreign direct investment to come in. Now, in Nigeria, this current government is not doing anything to bring in foreign direct investment. Power supply, they are still sitting on it. Railways, they are sitting on it. Domestic gas, they are sitting on it. Steel plants, they are sitting on it. They are sitting on everything. Telecoms is better now because the Obasanjo government decided that they were not sitting on it. So they opened the sector, and that is how the MTNs and the Airtels and co came in. What has this government done to do that? So that we are no longer talking about debt, right? The telecoms have invested over $100 billion in our economy, and it's not by debt. We're not talking about debt service. It's their money they brought in, they took the risk, they invested. What is this government doing to encourage people to invest in the steel sector, in the domestic gas sector, in the power supply sector, in agriculture, and all of that? Because that is where the real jobs will be created. It's not about the presidents, the first lady, and the first son going about Nigeria, giving handouts to Nigerians. That's not what we need, right? Just get yourself out. If, for instance, the government got themselves out of the refineries and we have private sector take over the refineries, by now some of the refineries will already start producing petroleum products, which will then be cheaper, more readily available, and in direct competition with Dangote refinery. Because right now we're only left with Dangote refinery. Whatever price it gives us, we have to take it. So you see, you have to have a government that is doing the real hard work. It's not by statistics. When you say you have created 240,000 jobs, where are they? 240,000 jobs is about probably like 8,000 jobs per state by the 36 states of Nigeria. How many people have got 8,000 jobs in their state as we speak today? Jobs in where? Which sector? Right? So it's not about paper. That's why I say this thing is not about telling us. Nigerians will feel it. Let's say, for instance, this government read the Riot Act to security agencies to say, if you don't drive the bandits out of the farms within X number of weeks or months, we are going to sack all of you and bring in new commanders and see if they can do it. And if bandits were driven away, government supported farmers with the machines, and agriculture is now booming in Nigeria. Agriculture will create millions of jobs. Millions. Imagine all of our lands are being cultivated now. Millions of jobs will be created. We'll not be talking about 200 and something thousand jobs that nobody has seen. When were they advertised? Can anybody point to an advertisement where government advertised for jobs and about 8,000 youths were employed through that advertisement process in any state? You see? So this one I say, if we can't feel it, then why? You don't need to tell us. We're Nigeria, we're in Nigeria. We have to feel it. If you have to tell us what we should be feeling, then there's a problem. If I'm in a room that is air conditioned and I have to wait on someone to tell me this room is cool, then there's a problem. As you agree with me.
Well, Nick, so putting it on a comparative scale right now, you think that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has not performed beyond expectation in terms of its 2 years economic impact and blueprints?
If I want to rate the current government, I'll give them a failure, a failed mark. You know why? To build an economy, there are certain pillars to build an economy. Number one, the most important ingredient for any economy is power supply. If you don't give power supply to an economy, it's the same as not giving blood to a human body. And you expect the body to thrive? The body isn't going to thrive. We have small nations like Qatar. Do you know that the population of Qatar is 3 million? Do you know their power supply is 8,000 megawatts? 8,000 megawatts for 3 million people. Nigeria is more than 200 million people. We're talking 5,000 megawatts. So 200 million people are having to depend on power supply that is less than that which 3 million people are getting. Is that not a joke? Right? And as we speak today, the gas is flaring in the Niger Delta. Have you heard this government since they came into power talk about how they can switch off the gas flares and then harness that gas into uses like power generation? You know, you have to fundamentally deal with an economy. An economy is not about going about distributing handouts. There are fundamentals to an economy. Number one, I've talked about power supply. Number two, you talk about agriculture. Number three, you talk about rail. Number four, you talk about steel. Do you know the importance of steel? That Nigeria is not doing any steel now means anything that has to do with iron or metal is imported. Because we don't have any steel at all. We don't have any steel plant that is working. Imagine the kind of machinery, even in the studio where you're sitting there. Look at your cameras. Look at the air conditioner. Look at even the building materials. Look at the cars. Look at everything in Nigeria. The steel must be imported because we're not producing it in Nigeria yet. We have complexes like Ajaokuta Steel, Alaja Delta Steel, the steel plants all over Nigeria. A government that is ready for development, those are the kind of places they will go. Within the first 3 months that they are in office, they will do something about the steel plants. They will do something about power. They will do something about rail. They will do something about agriculture. They will do something about domestic gas. Those are the pillars of an economy. And if you are not doing those things, but instead you are saying, oh, we are doing debt service, we are doing. Look, if you boost the economy and Nigeria begin to generate its own money, nobody is going to talk about debt again, because we will have enough money to go around. So debt service should not be a criteria to assess yourselves as a government. Instead, you should be saying, what have I done to boost the economy? I have debt with the refineries. I have debt with the steel plants. We don't expect all of them to just come up on stream within 2 years, but at least work would have started now. If work has started on those projects, you will now know that it's only a matter of time. They will come on stream and Nigeria will be better. So I don't think this government has started to touch on the fundamentals of the economy. They are dealing with the periphery, right? If they need to go back to the drawing board and do the hard work. If the president calls a meeting of the oil sector in his office and say, look, Nigeria produced 2.5 million barrels of crude oil before. Now we are doing 1.3, 1.5, 1.8. Tell me, as your president, what do I need to do for us to get back to that 2.5 million, because we have the infrastructure to produce it? By now, what could be going on to boost our oil supply, oil output to about 2.5 million? And then the government will now say, what else do I need to do so that we can take it to 5 million? And you would have seen work that has started to getting us to 5 million. If we get to 5 million barrels of crude oil per day, Nigeria will be awash with dollars, and nobody will be talking about debt again. You know, so the fundamentals, this economy has no economy management. They have no economy management, because even now, I'll tell you one other thing that will be very shocking to our viewers. There is no coordination of the economy, because economy management has two lungs. One is monetary policy, the other is fiscal policy. Monetary policy is spearheaded by the Central Bank of Nigeria, while the fiscal policy is spearheaded by the Federal Ministry of Finance. As we speak today, the central bank's push is to mop up liquidity from the economy. So they take money, they are mopping up money from the system, while the fiscal policy, Federal Ministry of Finance, is increasing money supply to the economy. So basically, think about a scenario like this. The Minister of Finance is in a room. He holds a pipe that is pushing water into a room. The central bank governor is at the other end of the room. He's packing the water out of the room. This is what these two policies have been doing for the past 2 years. Minister of Finance pumping water into the room. Central bank governor mopping the water out of the room. What are they doing? Are we going to make progress if that kind of thing is happening? Answer is absolutely zero. We are not going to make progress, and that is where we are. And Mr. President, I don't know if he even knows what is happening in the country, because if he knows, he should call these two managers of the economy and say, okay, you guys are working across purposes. This man is pumping liquidity in the system. You are mopping up liquidity. What does that mean? It's either you mop up liquidity or you pump in liquidity, both of you, so that we can know we have an impact. And to say that you can see the inflation, inflation was rising, then they did mathematics and say rebasing brought down the inflation to 23%. The last inflation now has gone up to 24% again. You know why? You are trying to heal a body, but you are refusing to deal with the cause of the illness. You're only dealing with the symptom. Like the man is saying, I have a headache, I have a headache. And you are just dealing with the headache. You don't know that the man's headache is coming from hunger, right? He hasn't got food in his stomach. Until you go and deal with the hunger, you can continue to cure that headache, but the headache will not finish. This is what is happening in Nigeria. Everything is not working. There's no coordination. The Minister of Finance has a title to his name that says Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. What coordination is he doing when he's pumping liquidity into the economy and the central bank, which is the other half, is mopping up liquidity from the economy? So these are the questions, right? And this is what things are doing where they are.
I got this signal, right, that it's time for us to go. But before I let you go, in a scale of 1 to 100, where do you think Nigeria is right now in terms of economic growth?
1 to 100, I put Nigeria on 20.
At 90?
20.
Oh, you're putting us at 20.
Yes.
Well, that's not a pass mark, Nick.
I already said it that this government has failed in terms of economy. They have failed because the pillars of the economy, they haven't started doing anything about them.
Well, that's a good way to say thank you so much, Nick, for finding out time to be with us today, even on Global Morning.
Thank you so much for having me. A nice day to our viewers.
All right, we'll go for another break, and when we come back, we'll still talk more on the show. Please stay with us as the conversation still continues here on Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews, latest news with experts on key global issues,
and at the same time keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Welcome back, and just in case you're just joining us, this is Global Morning here on Global Television. My name is Godwin Sunday. Joining me to talk about issues in Rivers State and assessing the Ibok-Etes administration and also coordination of Rivers State as it stands right now. It's a month today since it was assigned that responsibility by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu through a national broadcast. But let's look at what has been done in Rivers State and how has he been able to handle affairs in Rivers State so far. Joining me to talk about this issue right now is a political and a public affairs analyst, and it is Bilal Aliu joining me all the way from Adamawa State. Welcome to Global Morning, Bilal.
Well, it's my pleasure, Godwin. Good morning.
All right, thank you so much, Bilal. Let's look at this Rivers State and some of the initiative by the sole administrator of Rivers State. One of the things that he did was to, he has done a lot of things, but look at all of the moves that he has made in terms of the local government, in terms of the head of service. Chief judges have resigned, the head of service resigned, and a lot of resignation keeps going on even outside the media space. But how will you access the various initiatives and also the coordination of the sole administrator of Rivers State, the person of Ibas? How will you rate his performance so far in 1 month?
Yeah, thank you very much, Godwin. First of all, I would say that the fact about appointing a sole administrator, it's alien to the Nigerian constitution. Though the constitution recognizes, a state of emergency, but you can't appoint a sole administrator to act in an executive capacity. In this case, the objective was so simple. The objective was for the sole administrator to ensure and restore peace and order in Rivers State. But in that case, there was a gazette which was approved by the president, and he has gone against the regulations stipulated in that gazette, which has to guide the sole administrator in terms of discharging his duties in that capacity. For me, the performance of the sole administrator is something which is so appalling, based on the fact that you don't have the powers to dismantle democratic processes. You are not there to, appoint political office holders and all. There's a structure put in place. There's a sitting governor, but he's been suspended. There are political structures put in place whereby they have to sync with the policy of the governments of the day. You just have 6 months to operate in that capacity. Then why appointing people into offices, sacking members of boards across the parastatal and the states, and now appointing people that are loyal or have some form of alliance with the other party? You should understand what I'm trying to say. So in that case, the performance of the sole administrator is nothing to write home about, because we need to understand that Rivers State is an oil-rich country, and which, as an oil-rich state, and which our economy solely depends on. We should know that presently we're finding it difficult to battle terrorism, and the rate at which banditry is spreading across the country, it's looking so scary at this point in time. We can't afford to go back to the days of militancy. So in this case, the president needs to review the performance of the sole administrator and install back democratic processes in Rivers State at this point in time.
Looking at what the sole administrator has done for Rivers State, he has been able to maintain the status quo and ensure that there's peace and tranquility in Rivers State. Today is his 1 month in office after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made that declaration on March the 18th. But looking at his modus operandi of how he has been able to handle issues in Rivers State, can't we say at this point that he has done? Can we say at this point that he has done magnificently well for the state in terms of the level of peace and tranquility the state has enjoyed so far?
First of all, Godwin, you mentioned the fact of maintaining status quo. He hasn't maintained any form of status quo, because if he is maintaining status quo in the states, there will be no need for sacking of members of boards and parastatals, and also appointing other people into other political offices, like the office of the SSG and the head of service, and also appointing sole administrators in the local government areas, because he's acting in a capacity whereby he has full control, total control. It is acting in an executive capacity, and which is alien to the constitution at large. There was a gazette, and he's going against the regulations stipulated in that gazette. And the National Assembly has, summoned the sole administrator, whereby he's going to appear before the House and other lawmakers and give them briefings on the activities going on in the Rivers at large. At this point in time, there are, form of people panicking in Rivers at large based on the activities being carried out by the sole administrator, because he has, truncated and dismantled democratic processes in the state, and which is really critical at this point in time. The people elected a governor, and you are now, suspending people, the representatives. You get, and I'm bringing it someone else. And funny enough, the sole administrator is not even from Rivers State; he's from Cross River. And the fact about employing and appointing a former military chief into as a sole administrator looks so scary, because we should know that the rate at which military uprisings happening within the West African region at this point is critical. We shouldn't give hopes or green lights to the military that they can take over or truncate democratic processes in this point in time.
A lot of people will not share in that conversation right now in terms of truncating a democratic process. Let's look at it from the angle of he wants people in office that he can work with, and that will be able to deliver some of the processes or instructions that he has gotten from the president in order to maintain decorum in the state. Or don't you see it in that light?
No. He has to maintain the status quo in order to ensure that peace reigns in the state at large, instead of appointing new people and truncating the plans of the administration, because this is 6 months. Imagining an administration who has sat for like 2 years and also disrupting the democratic structures and bringing in new people. Don't you think that that's going to affect the policy roadmap being established by the present administration in Rivers State? And in that point in time, they are going to go off the rail by appointing new people, because these new people will come in with their own policies and programs and ditching out the ones that was already laid out by Governor Fubara. So in that case, what the sole administrator is meant to do, the objective is this. It's just simple. It's stipulated there in the Gazette. It's looking for a way to ensure peace and order, and also ensure that the residents of Rivers State go about with their daily business activities without any form of hindrance. They are not telling you to come in there to dismantle democratic structures or appoint any other person into office, because he needs to know that he just has 6 months in there to govern before they restore back the full democratic process in the states at large.
Looking at this, we can say that the Vice Admiral Ibas, as the sole administrator of Rivers State, when he came on board, he was going about inspecting projects initiated by the governor, and it's on record that most of the projects that was started by Governor Siminalayi Fubara has not been stopped. That is, those projects are still ongoing. The federal government is releasing funds for him to also ensure that there's no form of stunted growth in Rivers State. And he has been following that trajectory to also guarantee the good people of Rivers State that they are in safe hands, even as it stands right now, while they are trying to work out modalities behind closed doors to bring about smooth democratic process in Rivers State. Don't you think at this point, if he is doing all of this, and also bearing in mind that he is not the governor, but he has been supervising, carrying out tasks for the good people of Rivers State, at this point in time, shouldn't we be telling him kudos for a job well done so far in Rivers State, other than all of the tantrums that we've seen on papers and all of the legal battles and legal tussles that we've seen on papers? Shouldn't he get commendation for even trying to sustain the pace of Governor Fubara Siminalayi?
Well, Godwin, when the sole administrator assumed office, I feel he started well by calling a meeting of all traditional rulers in Rivers State and the government house, and briefing them and letting them know that he will make bold moves in order to restore peace and order, and also seeking cooperations from the traditional rulers. Well, what people are against is the fact of, going against the regulations stipulated in the Gazette. Why appointing people into political office? Why dismantling democratic structures, sacking members of the boards, and people heading other parastatals? Because don't you think this is going to disrupt the plans put in place of the government of the day? Because what the sole administrator needs to do, if he was, wise enough, is to, call people, the key people frontlining the present administration, and key into the recommendations and the plan, ongoing plans, whereby he has to sink in it in order not to go or derail against the policy plans of the present administration. In this case, there will be a form of harmony, and because when there's a transition in government, but this is not a transition, when there is a shift in governance, there's what they call handover notes. But in this case, there might not be any form of handover notes, but you still need the people on ground. You still need the people within the government in order to guide you on the programs, because he doesn't know the programs that have been the roadmap carried out by the present administration, because he just has 6 months. Coming in 6 months, implementing your own programs and policy is going to really affect the state at large, because when the governor resumes back into office, there'll be a whole lot of alignments and retrenching most of the people appointed by the sole administrator, and also bringing back his people back for them to be in sync with the roadmap developed by the present administration. So the objective is just very simple. You are just there as a sole administrator to ensure that there is peace and order. But in the case of dismantling democratic processes and all, it's a no-no.
So outside this dismantling of democratic institutions, if you want to assess the performance of Abbas so far in Rivers State, can we then say that he has done magnificently well for the state?
We wouldn't say he has done magnificently well for the state, because it's just 1 month of office and there has been some form of lapses, and the new people being appointed into office, are still trying to look for a way to readjust and realign themselves in that phase. So there's, some forms of discrepancies like going on presently.
Just before I let you go, Femi Falana has come out to say that some of the processes and some of the initiative by IBAS, they seem to be unlawful, asserting that the treatment of presidential order with contempt has compounded the illegality of his appointment and urged its immediate dismissal. And now, this is just Femi Falana on one hand. On the other hand, the PDP governors have gone to court to also challenge the process of the removal of Siminalayi Fubara as the governor or suspended governor of Rivers State. Also, not just that, we have quite a number of cases of people that have gone to court. But then, you know that with the situation played out even in Rivers State, with the impeachment notice the impeachment rumors being paddled, there was a tendency for Siminalayi Fubara to have been impeached by the Rivers State House of Assembly. And on the other hand, there is also the tendency that if that happens, the possibility of the Ijaw ethnic nationalities, even residents in Rivers State, even based in Rivers State, will want to react to that particular incident because they've threatened. Even the Egbesu came out, which is an Ijaw ethnic group, came out to threaten that if anything happens to Fubara, that the government and the president will hear from them. Of course, we read all of that on the national dailies and we followed up through on that story. But looking at that, all of these incidents right now, and what IBAS has been able to do in terms of working with people that he feels he can work with, do you think that at this point in assessing IBAS, first, do you think that he's playing the Wike scorecard, as in playing the Wike card, political card right now, where people allege that he is appointing, his appointment are largely centered on the cronies of Wike, the political cronies of Nyesom Wike, the former governor of Rivers State? That's on one hand. On the second hand, looking at all of these court cases that stands right now, don't you think that this will further undermine the performance of IBAS going forward, because this will serve as distraction for him to implement some of his mandates that has been given to him by Mr. President? Quickly, can you just address those two questions, please?
Wait, logically, Godwin, when you look at the fact of appointing a sole administrator, it's alien to our constitution, and what the constitution, approves is, declaring a state of emergency in a state, and that shouldn't disrupt democratic processes and all. In the case of court cases by the PDP governors and other, civil society organizations and stakeholders, because we know that it's uncalled for, it's against the constitution. The last resort of the common man is to go to the courts to, challenge any decisions made by the government in this point in time. So, secondly, the sole administrator has been operating in a full executive capacity, going against the laid down, stipulations on the Gazette approved by the president at this point in time, and which has also, made the House of Representatives, summon the sole administrator. The fact of threats issued by the Ijaw Youth Councils and all, we should know that, the people of, especially the South region, are, the different kind of people whereby they are even resistant to any form of like godfatherism or what will I godfatherism, and also the form of infringing on their own rights and all, because these are people that are really ready to fight for their rights in any form of capacity. Because when you look at the situation on ground, you tend to find out that most of the appointments and the sole administrator is playing the scripts on the side of the FCT minister. Let's look at Rivers State. Like over the years, for the past 20 years, it's just been one part of the state, one ethnic group, holding the reins of, governance. And in this point, there has to be like a power shift to another, ethnic group, which is the fourth largest, ethnic group in Nigeria. And you can also find them not just at Nigeria, also the coast of the Gulf of Guinea and Equatorial Guinea at all, and you also have them in other states like Ogun, Ondo and all. So in this point in time, they feel marginalized, and the oil that Nigeria's economy is solely dependent on, it's coming out from their own, communities, and they feel cheated. And in this point in time, we shouldn't forget the days of militants. This is not, I'm talking about Boko Haram or banditry. These are people that even the Obasanjo government found it difficult. Obasanjo, as like a military man, found it difficult to combat. Yar'Adua had no option. His last resort was to come for a to ensure an amnesty program takes place in order for them to shield their own militancy activities at large. And it has brought peace within the Niger Delta region. And now this is another case on ground now, and this is really threatening the national security and peace in this country. We found it difficult we're still struggling to combat terrorism and banditry. We can't afford to go back to the days of militancy, because the nation is going to be, blown out, because our sole economy solely depends on this oil, and we haven't yet diversified other, sectors to say that we can, our revenue can depend on this other form of sectors, because we need to be very careful, and politicians need to shield their interest and ensure that the status quo is being maintained in the Rivers State in order to prevent all this form of national security threats and all. Let them think beyond politicking and and all.
Fortunately, that's how far we can go this morning. I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the show, Bilal.
Thank you very much. God willing.
Well, viewers, this is how far we can go this morning on Global Television. And this is how far we can run with even the conversation right now on Rivers State. But we'll still talk more even on the show. But I've been saying that right now that it's time for us to leave. Don't always remember that you can follow us across all our social media platforms now showing on your screen using @Global TV NG. You can download the Global TV mobile app from your Android and iOS devices just to keep track of our broadcast. My name is Godwin Sunday. Till Global Morning returns to you, do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. From all of us here in the studio, it's bye for now.
Welcome to Global Morning.
Death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too. For sure. If you don't say we have several more stories.
The legislature
was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle as a strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.